Hello, this is Deborah with Black Education TV, and I have a very interesting story I'd like to share with you all. First of all, congratulations to the young man who received 20 acceptance letters to some very major colleges and universities. He applied to 20 and all 20 of them accepted him. Congratulations to you, okay? For those of you who pursue education and you're this smart to where all of these places like Yale and Princeton and all of these top-notch schools accepted this young black male, hats off to you. Okay, now that I've gotten that part out of the way, I wanted to expound on the obnoxious statements made by Fox News. When they were covering the story, instead of them congratulating this exceptional young man, they decided that they were going to complain profusely about him. They actually called him obnoxious. They also said ridiculous a number of times, that it was ridiculous that he applied to 20. Most people only apply to 4, is what one of them said, maybe 5. And even if you applied to 10, I mean, come on. I mean, they were just rattling on and on about how many this young man applied to. See, the thing is, we know that there is no set number of universities you can apply to. There is no set number you can apply to. He was accepted at all of them. And so they, instead of making this a proud moment for this young man, they decided to rain on his parade. Of course, you know, we are talking about Europeans. We are talking about Caucasians who decided that they're going to make this ridiculous. Their words, ridiculous and obnoxious, is how they describe this, saying that he's taking away opportunities from other young people who could have applied, but they couldn't apply because his application was in. Now, let me tell you how ignorant this sounds. It was only an application, and he got acceptance letters. He can only go to one of the schools. Okay? He can only go to one. And so that would mean that the other 19 spots, once he makes his choice, are going to be open again. But when you listen at their rationale, when you listen at how they spoke of this as if he was stealing or taking away an opportunity from someone else, it is utterly ridiculous. How did they even arrive at that? The real issue is not the fact that he applied to 20 and was accepted to 20. I mean, it's obvious that they were simply jealous of him. The real issue is they feel like maybe because he's black, he shouldn't deserve to go to any of these schools, much less be accepted. And so they want to throw out this fake narrative that does not exist. If he applies to 20 schools and he's accepted, that just blew their mind. It blew their mind to the point where they want to make it something negative, as if he did something wrong. Listen at their words. They made it sound as if he did something wrong, as if he did something immoral for applying to more than 4 or 5 universities. It was his sheer talent that got him accepted into all of these schools. It was his talent, his hard work, his brain that got him accepted. But yet again, history has proven time and time again that they want to take it all from us. Even if it's in the news stating that he's obnoxious or ridiculous for even putting in that many applications. Well, newsflash, woman. Maybe he felt like he had to put in 20 because he wasn't sure if any of them would accept him. So he's thinking, the more I put in, the better my chances are. But this slam dunk acceptance from all of these universities and colleges just proved how phenomenal this young man is. And you and your counterpart just proved on national TV how jealous and absurd and obnoxious you are. I noticed the chick that looked kind of mixed. The third one, when she questioned, she said, well, don't those spaces become available if If he's only going to accept one. I mean, that was her nice, quiet way of trying to, I guess, somewhat defend him, but not really. It bothered her enough to say something. But the lady was like, well, yeah, you know. And then she goes on to give her further explanation of how 19 other kids had to be sad that day. Oh, cry me a river. Now, listen, family. Over the years, many of you who have followed my channel, you've seen the frustration that I get when I see things like this that happen against our people. It gets frustrating. But then you've also noticed how I kind of tapered down a bit, because it's like the Most High had showed us that, you know, we were going to be treated this way. This is part of the punishment of our people for being disobedient, you know. And so I kind of tapered off a little bit. But from time to time, there are certain stories that come up that you just feel the need to say something. I was reading one comment, and one so-called black woman, she said, this whole thing is giving me whiplash just thinking about the nonsense of what they're saying. And so this one kind of just struck me like that. I mean, I'm sitting back saying to myself, are these women in their minds actually going to sit here and justify what they're saying about this young man, making it seem as if he has done something wrong or something immoral for merely applying to 20 colleges or universities? There is something going on in their minds if they think they're right. You and I both know that if it were Becky or Biff that had applied to 20 universities and was accepted at all 20, that these same two women would be celebrating. We've all seen the comparison videos, how they make a comparison of what a so-called black person does versus what a so-called white person does, and how there is this double standard. We've all seen those. We can't deny it. I mean, we've seen it with our own eyes, double standards. We've seen how people literally insulted and put Michelle Obama down for showing her arms. She had too much arm showing. Everything else was covered up real good, but too much arm showing, some of them said. But then now the chick that's in the office now, they are justifying nude pictures of her looking like a Trump, looking like a Trump. Yes, looking like a Trump. Justifying pictures of her looking like just whatever. Looked like she fell out of the pages of Playboy magazine. They justify those, but they insulted and denigrated Michelle Obama for showing her arms. Double standard America. Don't you realize, oh Christian nation you call yourself, don't you realize that the Elohim or God of heaven who you think you serve, you really don't. Don't you realize that he sees all of this wickedness in your hearts? He sees the double standards and the hypocrisy that just oozes out. And I'm not talking about every last white person, because we know that not every last white person is this way. We've seen so many of them. As a matter of fact, in the comment section of the person who shared this on Facebook, there were plenty of so-called white people who despised their despicable comments against this young man, who did not like what they said about this young man. So I'm not foolish enough to believe that every white person feels this way, just like I'm not foolish enough to believe that every so-called black person has righteousness oozing out of their members. I mean, we know that not to be true. But I'm trying to make a point here. I'm trying to make a point that when a person allows that kind of hypocrisy to fester and to just lay up and settle in their gut, you've got to know that the Most High is not pleased with you, regardless to who you are. He is not pleased with you. So you can go to church and you can sing your little Christian songs and play your little Christian music and say your little Christian prayer. At the end of the day, your heart is wicked. And when you put it on display and you try to explain it away as though it's some type of error on the young man's part, when really you've just shown the whole world just how wicked your heart is. Instead of being happy for the young man and congratulating him, you're talking about 19 sad young people who didn't get their letters accepted. But what about him being sad from hearing this nonsense spewing out of your mouth over national TV? Those 19 young people that you're talking about, they're not going to miss out on anything. You see, because he can't go to all 20 schools. When he makes his selection to go to one, those 19 spaces that you all claim or make it seem as though he stole from someone, they become available. Or are we dealing with complete idiots that are on the news? To make such an issue of this, like the one sister said, she said those comments almost gave me whiplash. Utterly ridiculous. Yet again proving that it's not all in our heads. We continue to see this mess go on full display day by day. You cannot write it off. The cameras are rolling now, and things are being said that you cannot take back. There is no apology that you can issue that will erase this from your heart. It's going to take divine intervention to erase this from your heart. Now, for those of you who think that because I'm covering such a story that I've got to be racist or of some sort, I find it amazing that whenever I'm talking about things dealing with the so-called black community or the Asian community, in which I rarely deal with them at all, but the so-called black community, that's where most of my focus is, because that's where my people are, and that's where I see a lot of improvement is needed in order for us to really truly repent and turn back to our Father. I spend most of my time there. No complaints from so-called white people whatsoever. But the minute I talk about anything dealing with things that so-called white people are doing, all of a sudden I'm racist to you. You believe that I'm racist, when that is far from the truth. I'm calling a spade a spade. And if you were real with yourself, you know that this story was ridiculous too, that they're calling him ridiculous and obnoxious. But if you were honest with yourself, you would say that those women were obnoxious and ridiculous, not the young man who got all of these acceptance letters. If the shoe were on the other foot and there were two black news reporters saying that a white student was obnoxious and ridiculous for applying to that many colleges, you know in your heart of hearts, oh hypocrite, that you would think that they were ridiculous and you would call them every name in the book. You know it. This is when you know a person's heart is just desperately wicked, when they can't even admit what is clearly obvious to the rest of the world. Okay, I'm going to get off of this right now, and I'm going to say congratulations yet again to the young man who proved for himself that he is capable of not only applying to 20 schools, but being accepted to 20 top-notch schools, universities, colleges, Princeton, Yale, all of the best. He applied and he was accepted. Okay, I'm out of here, family.